let's get started. And as you know, today's conversation is going to be about PSA, and the topic that we're specifically going to be speaking about is why your PSA is not a service desk, thereby telling you tips on how you can make the best use of your PSA. Yes, and for this, we have with us Mark Crall and Chris Timm. So, you know, Mark and Crall, they're well known in the MSP community. A lot of you here might already know them. You know, Mark Crall is the VP of Sales at SuperOps.ai. He's an MSP veteran and a former MSP owner. He was also recognized as channel chief by CRN. And Chris Timm is the author of PSA Profitability, and he's a technical director at Sondela Consulting. He's an MSP business coach, PSA RMM expert, and executive council member at CompTIA. Mark and Chris, did I miss out on something? Do you want to add something?
No, I feel better about myself already. Thanks. It's good to catch up with Chris again. It's been a number of years.
Yeah, I was actually going to say I've known Mark for many years, back when I used to run my MSP business too. So yeah, so we've known each other for a very long time. So always good to catch up with old friends.
Likewise.
That's great. That's great. That's awesome. Over to you, Mark and Chris, to take it on from here.
Thank you.
Okay, so hi everyone. So my name's Chris Timm. I'm a MSP business consultant, specializing in helping MSPs to get the best out of their PSA tool. You know, and as Sharam said, today we're going to be talking about you know, PSA is not a service desk, and this is the reason why. So let's kind of start on this and look at what is a PSA tool. So personally, I don't like the word PSA, which stands for Professional Services Automation, because really what a PSA tool is it's a business management platform. So it's a platform that manages your entire business, not just the service delivery side of your business. So things like, you know, contract management, project management, you know, even CRM opportunity management, you know, everything in your entire business is managed via your PSA tool. So that includes, you know, everything from kind of, I like to call it from cradle to grave. So being able to manage the clients effectively when they become, or when they're a prospect or a lead, all the way through to, I guess, when they no longer become a client anymore, or they're no longer a client, but every single thing that you're doing with that customer, you know, from generating the very first opportunity to, you know, managing their contracts, billing the customer, you know, managing projects, and of course, all of the service delivery piece. So, you know, you probably came onto this webinar thinking, you know, what the heck are these guys talking about? Of course, a PSA tool is a service desk. Yes, it does have a service desk element of it. But very often, you know, we find that people kind of go into a service desk, or sorry, go into a PSA tool with the service desk in mind, and go in, you know, wanting a service desk, and kind of don't look at all the other bits and pieces that you know, that a PSA tool will allow you to do. So how does this compare to a general service desk? So, you know, there's a bunch of service delivery tools out there. I'm not going to mention any names on this webinar. I'm sure you know who they all are, you know, that are pure play service desk platforms that allow you to create tickets for your customers, that allow you to, you know, manage everything about the service delivery element. And those are great, right? Those are great for ticketing, but that's all they are, is they ticketing systems. If you then went for one of those solutions, you then normally would have to go and, you know, get a separate CRM tool, or a separate billing tool, or a separate project management tool, whatever it is that you're looking to do. So how that differs from a PSA tool, as I mentioned earlier on, is, you know, the PSA tool is your full business management platform that allows you to manage the entire life cycle of your business. So let's look at this, and let's look at why do you need to get an MSP? Sorry, why does your MSP business need to get a PSA tool? So life cycle management. So we talked about this, managing the client all the way through the entire life cycle of the customer. So right the way from, when you take that very, very first lead, you create the opportunity, you go through that whole sales process. They go from a lead into a prospect. All of those things that you're doing with the customer, you're managing the entire relationship with that prospect, when they become a customer. Then they sign on board. You then might need to quote them for some other things. So you integrate your quoting tool into that, and then you get to a point where they're going to need some tickets at some point. They're going to log some tickets with you. You're going to need your engineers to actually go in and talk to the customers, update those tickets, all that kind of stuff. So that's where a PSA tool is really, really going to help your business. From an entire life cycle management of that client, not just the service delivery side of it, and then all the way through to things like billing your customer. Being able to actually you have a contract with some services in there. You're going to go ahead and actually bill your customer for those services. That entire life cycle management piece is what you're going to be able to do in a PSA tool. One of the reasons why, as an MSP, you need to get a PSA tool. Also allows you to have those contextual conversation things like, when the contract is about to expire. Do you need to go in and renew one of those services? Do you maybe need to charge a little bit extra for some service? Do that? Is there a particular device that is needing much more attention, and you're spending a lot more time on that device, logging more time, more tickets? So it's those kinds of conversations that a PSA tool allows you to have as well, because you're going to have all of that information in. So it's like a single pane of glass, really. It's going to allow you to have all of that information at your fingertips to be able to really have those conversations with your customers. So I call that fact-based decision making, because you've got all the facts, and now you can make the decisions based upon those facts. And then of course, one of the biggest reasons why your MSP needs a PSA tool is absolutely my all-time favorite topic, is all about improving profitability. So as Shiram earlier on, I recently authored a book. Sorry, shameless plug, but I recently authored a book on PSA profitability. So all about how to get the profitability information out of your PSA tool. So being able to really accurately pinpoint how much each contract costs, how much each engineer costs, and then being able to run reports to really look right down to who is my most profitable customer, who's my least profitable customer, which contract is costing me money, which customer is costing me money, and you're going to be able to really pinpoint that right down to the contract. And being able to have that information in the PSA and having accurate information in there, like understanding the cost of the engineer and how much time that engineer is costing, all of that kind of stuff you're going to be able to put into the PSA tool. So there's a bunch of reasons why your MSP needs to get a PSA tool over a traditional service delivery and service desk tool.
Chris, question for you. When you're looking at the MSPs out there, and I got my idea here, but what's the biggest mistake that MSPs make in something they don't utilize in a PSA that they should? When I was at one of those other companies, one of the big PSAs out there, one of the top 4, we had a real struggle with getting people to implement it. I think the number was 80% of MSPs use 20% of their PSAs at best, or their entire platform that they have available. What do you find is the part that they don't implement is a real mistake? I know what mine was.
That's a great question, and I think most of the time it's probably the rest of the PSA tool except for the service delivery side, right? So hence why we kind of, had this topic on, on this webinar, because a lot of people go into it buying it as a service desk tool and they implement the service desk side of it and don't implement any of the other parts. So they're still going to do their billing through, whatever other platform. They're still going to do their project management and their sales opportunities and CRM. They're still going to do all of that through all these other tools and are using it predominantly as a service desk tool. So I think certainly from that point of view, from using it, the biggest mistake I think is that people buy it ultimately for the wrong reason, right? So they go into it with, needing a service desk and they buy a PSA tool for that. And, one of the things I always say in this industry is we're very much of a Me Too industry, right? So people will be looking for a service desk tool and they'll suddenly go, hey, what does everyone else use? And 99% of the time people are using a PSA tool, and somebody will buy the PSA tool because they think, oh, it's a great service desk tool. So they don't actually look at it to see, really understand all the other pain points in their business that need solving, and then look at the PSA tool that's going to solve those. They just kind of buy it because, they want to do some kind of service delivery to their customers.
I appreciate that. That's good insight. I think you're right. It's 80% of it that they don't use that is probably the mistake. I can strongly recommend if somebody just needs a service desk, there are great choices. Many of our current employees and executives came from Zoho, which is a fantastic tool, easy to use, reasonable price. You got Zendesk, you got Freshworks, you got all sorts of choices out there. I take a journey back. We mentioned that I started an MSP back in, it was 20 years ago, in fact, almost to the date. And I didn't add a PSA until about year 2. I had a couple of employees. I was break fix. I was going into this thing they called managed services. And I had a customer call me and fire me. And I couldn't understand why. He says, well, I told you I had a printer I needed you to get to next time you could. And I had written it down on that yellow pad that a lot of people use. And, you write down what the problem is, who called, how many hours it takes you to fix it, whether it was on-site, off-site. And then you ultimately enter that into QuickBooks and you send out your bill once a month if you're lucky. And I had turned that notepad page one too many times and I never fixed his printer. And some IT guy came in and said, hey, anything I can fix for you? And next thing you know, he had my customer. And next thing you know, I was buying at that time Autotask. So it's you learn real quick.
Yeah. Funny, Mark, I actually had a very, very similar, a similar problem. Mine was more to do with billing, right? So I would go and, again, break fix, on my own. Most of the time I'd have my pad with me. I'd visit the customer and I would write down how long I was on site for. So, I'd say 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. I'd get back to the office and I was like, is that a 3 or a 5? I don't know. I was there for 3 hours and I just kind of make it up. So I ended up finding that I actually wasn't billing the customer the correct amount most of the time, because either I didn't write down the start and end time, or I didn't, or I just wrote down how many hours I was there or not at all. And then I decided at that point I really needed to get a PSA tool because I kind of need to get the stuff in there and I need to make sure that I'm billing correctly. The other thing it took me is sometimes I always used to do my billing at the end of the week, and it would take me an entire weekend to figure out, firstly, what the heck all these numbers were that I'd written down, and then get them manually keyed into QuickBooks. When I bought a PSA tool, it took me, literally went down from an entire weekend to about 2 hours on a Friday afternoon to do all of my billing, because I just ticked a bunch of boxes, billed for everything, and sent invoices to the customers. So, that gave me back a huge amount of time, gave me back all of my weekends to spend with my family. So, very similar reasons as to kind of why we went for a PSA tool. So it sounds like a kind of a similar thing to you, I guess, but yours was more from a service delivery side. Ours is more from a kind of a billing mistake side.
I think we could beat up 1,000 reasons on why a PSA. Let's we'll move along here. We promised a brief introduction on who is SuperOps. Obviously, much more than a ticketing system. SuperOps is founded with a core vision. We want to enable MSPs to establish and accelerate their practices faster. Okay, And I can educate you on what a PSA is, what an RMM is, but I think the industry's done a really good job of that over the past 20, 30 years. I think you know what the core functionalities of those solutions should be. I want to give you an opportunity to see the vision we have that our founders came up with. So Jay and Arvid, our COO and CTO, they started this company about a year and a half ago. And this history is important because you want to understand what's different. I know somebody's going to post in the chat, what's different than you in ConnectWise or you in Synchro or you in Halo? And there's a huge difference. It's really the vision that we have and the journey we're taking to get there. So about a year and a half ago, our founders left Freshworks, did a great job of growing that company. Many of you are familiar with it now, publicly traded company. And they said, well, we've really got great experience. We've got access to a great team. What's needed? And they were interacting with some folks in the MSP, some industry thought leaders. And they said, if the industry could use anything, it's a fresh take on the PSA RMM stack. That a lot of the solutions out there were outdated, kludgy. I'm not trying to bash on them, but they were written 20, 30 years ago, and some of that code's still there. The complexity of them has grown to the point where that is a enablement issue where companies can't implement because there's so many choices, and you gotta hire a Chris Timm to even get started. So what's the possibility? Those two guys gathered together with about 15 industry experts. You'll recognize some of these names: Jay McBain, Dave Sobel, Ryan Morris, Eric Simpson, Gary Beecham, the list goes on. And they said, what would that look like? And with their guidance and the guidance of over 150 other MSPs, they spent the past year and a half rolling out a solution that launched in January of this year that we call SuperOps. So if you want to go to the next screen, I hate having to narrate slides, but we're trying to keep it as clean as we can. So we got a poll. Yeah, thank you. I forgot about that. Let's throw out the poll and tease them a little bit longer here.
Yep. So yeah, just launching the poll now. We'll just take a 15 seconds for this. Yeah. After this, Mark will run you through more info on SuperOps. Yeah. Launching the poll. Yeah.
Launch poll, launch. I don't know if they know the answer to that question yet, but it's a good one. So
I tried to vote on it, and it says hosts and panelists cannot vote. So you didn't get my vote. Sorry, guys.
I think you know enough about us.
Exactly.
The SuperOps on the vision, we took a fundamental take on how should a PSA RMM work together. And the first consensus was they shouldn't work together. They should be one solution. Integrations are good. Let's say that integrations are good. Unified, better. I know it sounds like I'm teaching remedial here, but having a single source where everything lives, all your users, your single interface, both sets of data on assets and tickets are not being interchanged between different systems, and having it all work together was the core concept that would be a refresh. Now, we're not unique in doing this. There's a couple of great competitors that do similar. And are we done with the poll?
Yes, yeah, we're done with the poll, yeah, Mark. Yeah.
Okay, it's just sitting on my screen. There we go. With a couple competitors have done this as well, but we've got one other fundamental difference that I'm going to share with you at the end, and that is our core differentiator. So PSA RMM, PSA side, again, it's a tab within a single interface. It's got everything you would expect, and it does include basic project management. Now, if you want to go into profitability per phase and auto billing per phase, what type of billing systems you should do, there are great solutions out there. What we want to do is establish the core fundamentals and build out from there. So project management included in the PSA tab. On the RMM side of the house, we have everything you'd expect from an RMM solution. One too many slides. We'll teach you how to drive these slides, Chris. First time?
Yeah, sorry. I'm
management. Yeah, in fact, I looked at a roadmap this morning of the RMM side of what we've got planned this quarter, and I cannot believe how much stuff is rolling out. If you're already one of our users, you're going to be super excited. If you've seen a prior version of it, it's not even going to look the same from a functionality standpoint, but it does include basic IT documentation. So asset information is documented in a single place. One of our biggest flaws before I implemented a PSA was my ability to grow the company without having standardized IT documentation and time and billing. You're right, Chris. When you add employees, if any of you are first, one owner companies where you don't have any employees yet, all those issues you have are multiplied by a factor of 3 when you had your first employee. You had your second employee, probably a factor of 5. It's an exponential growth in efficiency without having a core platform. We deliver all that. And of course, the one thing you would expect, this is what I did at one of my prior employers, is our centralized marketplace. You could call it our integration hub. Through our integration hub, go ahead and click on our integration hub, you will have access to all the standard tool sets that's not our core competency. We're not going to go out and build an antivirus or a remote desktop functionality. You can actually have free Splashtop through us. Our Paxate integration was marked as complete today, so I don't know if we're just now in beta or if they're ready to roll that out, but integration at the PSA level with hundreds of other vendors. Bitdefender is enabled through us, QuickBooks. In fact, you can purchase Bitdefender through us as well. RevRoot, same thing. The list goes on. Go to superops.ai/marketplace if you want to take a look at those, or I think you click marketplace. But that's the core idea. Let me take it one level higher. One of the core functionalities that they said they wanted to do with SuperOps was the 2 things Chris talked about earlier, is help an MSP be more efficient on the documentation, on the remediation, and on their scalability. If we can help you do that, it would make sense. How do we propose to do that? Well, yeah, we're automation driven. That's our core functionality, hence the A in PSA. But intelligent automation is the other thing we're looking at. They call it AI. That's why our name is. So from the inception, we've been built with a purpose AI engine at the foundation. So what that means in technical terms is the data is being normalized in a way that allows us to look at it and learn. We are rolling out the industry first intelligent alerting, enunciate. That is the concept of where we are monitoring assets and resources and identifying when a particular resource is behaving in a different kind of way, or there's a scenario where there's a potential problem occurring. We can alert you and allow you to make some decisions. Do you want to change the thresholds of alerts for this type of asset or this one in particular? Do you want to kill this type of alert notification, or do you want to convert it to a ticket? That's step 1. And here's the sexy part. Can we be sexy in the PSA world? Is that possible anymore? I think it is. Here's the sexy part. The ability to take everything we learn from humans from a remediation standpoint and allow you to choose whether you want to apply those remediations automatically the next time those situations occur. Imagine if you could remediate 80% of your current service desk tickets automatically. I don't know about you, but when it comes to growing the efficiency of your company, the scalability of your company, that's our ultimate goal. And we can do that because we're next generation code. We're not built on the legacy platforms. We've started from the inception into AWS, and it's allowing us to do this. So that's a high level view. If you're like, Mark, I'm really curious about this. It sounds like vaporware. I wouldn't be here if it was. Number 1, most of you know my reputation. But number 2, check it out. We've got the ability to go to our website, sign up for a free trial. If you want a guided tour, we'll put somebody on with a demo. There's no pressure sales environment. If it's a fit for your organization, we'll let you know, or you'll figure it out, I guess. If it's not, we'll be the first to let you know. We actually turn away a lot of customers because they're dependent on a certain feature or something that they just, they do their business a certain way and it's not a fit. We're not going to try to be everything to everybody. We'll let you know. So you can move on. That is a summary of SuperOps. Invite you guys to take the journey with us on this vision. Even if you choose not to do a demo or not to sign up for a free trial, there is a candy board. We've got over 1 million postings on that the past year of MSPs just like you that are giving us the feedback. We call that our advisory board. Jump on there. You can see the roadmap. You can see what's been accomplished, what's planned, what's in motion. You can also give your feedback on and vote on other people's opinions about what should be included in the future of the MSP platform. So we'll bounce over to some questions. I see the chat window lighting up there. Yes, we have Swipe. Somebody asked, does SuperOps have any integrations or recommendations for accessing payments like Connect Boost or something similar? Yes, and we are aggressively working on making sure there's even more of those. And Sherm, you want to go ahead and lob some questions at us? You were probably monitoring that closer than I was.
Yep. So I think there's just one question that's popped up on the Q&A. So if you folks have questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A tab. Yeah.
Okay. There are a bunch in the chat.
They're in the chat window. That's what I'm looking through there.
Yeah,
Do internal IT departments front as MSPs and gain access to the tools the MSP and PSA have access to? Yeah, within limitations. You obviously want to expose what's important to them, and we are aggressively working on what else. A lot of the answers I'm going to give you guys, and I don't want to sound like a salesperson. I'm a recovering engineer like many of you. A lot of the answers are it depends. What we have and what we're building is 100% dependent on you as an industry. And that candy board I mentioned with the 1 million posts, as things are voted on and raised higher on the stack, we implement them. Bottom line. And it's going through.
Mm-hmm.
David Smith called me out on talking too long before we showed an overview of what SuperOps does. And David, I respect you for that. Thank you. I've told a few vendors a few times where it made sense. Integration with Zoho. I know I've heard the discussions on that. I would have to look on the candy board. You can go there and you don't have to sign in, and you can find out where that sits. And if there's a conversation on it, you can certainly vote on it. But we have a lot of employees from Zoho and a lot from Freshworks. So I would anticipate that there is some direction that way in integrating our PSA and our future quoting and general ledger with Zoho. That would make a lot of sense. And reading through.
Yeah, I'm just reading through. Yeah.
Just put in the effort to build the integration engine. I love it. We got called out on our APIs a couple of times. So let me just tell you guys the reality of it. As SuperOps was developing, it was right in the midst of a couple of really big news articles on a couple of RMMs. And there was an immediate concern, because we are an agent-based RMM, are we going to be the next one in the news for the wrong reasons? And we took a very cautious approach on opening up and developing the API for the RMM side. That was obviously a big concern. So why we don't have more integrations with other solutions that we haven't spent the time developing an integration engine is we want to do it right the first time and never ever risk. We do have a zero tolerance approach here.
There's actually another question in the Q&A from Jason, who said, what about documentation? Are you planning to integrate it with IT Glue or something similar, or is there any kind of documentation built in?
Well, yes and no. The answer is yes. We are planning on integrations with them if we have enough votes in our candy board. The reality is a lot of what IT documentation can exist in IT Glue is stuff we have either in our system or in development. Will we ever catch up with them? No. Is that our goal? No. It's to give you the most important stuff and not a bloated product. I'm not accusing them of being bloated, but we want to avoid running down that path. So we're getting the core stuff that's essential to MSPs first. We killed all the questions.
Okay. I think we've done them
all right.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everybody joining us today, taking time out of your business to work on your business. You can't do it enough. If there's ever anything I can assist anybody here with, I know Chris is available. I'm available. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I've made all the mistakes possible for an MSP, and I would be glad to have some side chats with any of you as time permits, or meet you at one of the events and help you with your business. And not just because I work for SuperOps, but because I love this community, and I know Chris does too. I've devoted my career to it. We do have a free 21-day trial. As I mentioned, there's no credit card required. You can go to our website, click on book a demo, or you can click on free trial, whatever fits your need, and we'll get you taken care of.
Yeah. And I just wanted to echo what you said, Mark. Even though I'm I'm a consultant and I do this for a living, I do enjoy kind of talking to people and just shooting the breeze about MSP in general, and helping out where I can. So I know there's a bunch of people on this call who know who I am, and yeah, so anyone got any questions on MSP specific stuff or PSAs, you know, hit me up. Always happy to help where I can.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. You'll receive a recording of this tomorrow on email. Yeah. Hope you had a few quick learnings. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.